Welcome to the Close the Chapter podcast. I am Kristen Boyce, a licensed marriage and family therapist with a private practice, Pathways to Healing Counseling. Through conversations, education, strategies, and shared stories, we will be closing the chapter on all the thoughts, feelings, people, and circumstances that don't serve you anymore and open the door to possibilities and the real you. You won't want to miss an episode, so be sure to subscribe. Welcome to this week's Close the Chapter podcast. I love meeting people from all around the world. And my guest today lives in Vienna, and she has walked through relationships with narcissists and how to heal and recover. She has her PhD, and this is kind of her life's work, is how to break cycles, how to recognize when you're in a toxic relationship. What are the signs? How do you begin to exit the relationship? How do you heal from the breakup? How do you get yourself back and move on? And this is the part I think is really hard for people. They're afraid of being alone. They're afraid they're unlovable. They're afraid they're defective. Something's wrong with them, because that's what happens when you're in an unhealthy relationship. You doubt yourself. You lose yourself. And you lose your confidence. And I hope this episode gives you hope, inspiration, and a path forward on how to heal. I love her bio. It's so fun. This is her bio. Even smart people make stupid choices in love. Dr. Alina Kastner knows why. She is the trusted voice in breakup recovery and emotional healing. She's watched brilliant minds lose themselves to toxic partners and seen capable people shrink themselves. She discovered something most therapists miss. Healing isn't about logic. It's about seeing the invisible patterns that trap you. Alina has the credentials, a PhD in psychotherapeutic sciences, master's from LSE, years of studying how relationships work. Credentials don't heal people, insight does. She shows you what you can't see, the loops, the story that keeps you stuck, and then hands you a new lens and helps you rewire your brain. Her viral healing tools, including the Toxic Breakup Journal, which I'm linking in the show notes if you want to grab it. I highly recommend. It's like 35 days of journaling, one a day. And I really suggest you do that. So I'm linking that in the show notes. It's also in the newsletter. It helps people recover from toxic relationships, narcissistic abuse, and emotional trauma. Her debut book, Breakup with Narcissism, is a manual for thinking clearly when emotions scream and you feel tormented and tortured in your own mind. I added that in. It's almost reclaiming your mind from someone who colonized it. And I also am linking her book, Breakup with Narcissism, in the show notes. So you can grab those there easily and in the newsletter. And then you could grab my free journal. It's 5 days. It's really helpful in your healing journey from unhealthy relationships and breakups. And you can grab that at kristendboyce.com/free resources. That's also in the show notes and in the newsletter, because you need all the support you can get. This is not a time to isolate yourself. This isn't a time to really push everything down, because it won't let you. Grief won't let you. A breakup or getting ready to break up won't let you, because you're so afraid and so much pain and so much hurt, and you need support. And that's okay. And that's helpful. And that will help you on your healing journey. So here is my conversation with Dr. Kastner. And pass it along, share it with someone. If you have a family member, if you have a friend, or you're in a group that's looking to heal, pass this along, because the more people that we can support in their healing journey, the better. That's why I'm doing this podcast. Here is our important conversation. Welcome to the Close the Chapter podcast. Have you gone through a breakup, a life transition? You've been in a toxic relationship, an unhealthy relationship. Maybe you've been in a relationship with a narcissist, and you're trying to heal and get back to yourself. You don't even know who you are. You feel unworthy. You feel unlovable. You feel defective. You feel like something's wrong with you. You feel like it's all you. And this is your chance to really focus on your own journey of healing. And I just want to say, I am so happy you're here with us, Dr. Alina Kastner. Make sure I said it right.
Perfect.
Yay! Okay, I'm so glad you're here. All the way
Thank
from
you
Vienna.
so much.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
So thank you for
Thank you for
joining
having
us.
me.
Yes.
I appreciate it.
Okay, you've written a book and a journal, which I am going to talk about, because there's not a lot of journals out there on healing from a breakup. So we have to talk about that. But let's talk about Breakup with a Narcissism, how to break free Let's talk about it. How did you get
Yeah.
into this topic? What was the inspo for the book?
So there's always that question, what was the inspo? And the truth is the first inspo was my own life and the fact that I used to date narcissistic men and realized that I had a pattern of repeatedly doing that and wanted to heal from that, which I then did. And then as a therapist, I sort of attracted an audience of clients that has gone through that same thing because I think that you are a therapist yourself, right? You pull people in that want to get your help through your experience and what you've been through. And then they just feel more validated, more seen, more heard if they know you've been through the same thing. So that's kind of the background. And then when I was pregnant with my son, I decided I don't want to just help the people that I see in my practice, but I want to help a much broader audience than I am on social media by writing a book and putting everything that I know and everything that I know from my experience and clients' experience in one sort of Bible on how to leave them.
I love that because I think people are so afraid that they're going to be alone. They're never going to find somebody, that they're damaged goods somehow. It's all them. There's something wrong with them. And so this gives them kind of a blueprint to start the healing journey. Let's talk about narcissism because that word, the term has gotten thrown out like all around,
Everywhere. Yeah.
everywhere. And I'm like, okay, let's just get down to the brass tacks. How do you describe a narcissist?
Very good question. And yes, it's used inflatedly everywhere. And just because they cheated or just because they're mean does not make them a narcissist, right? So we have to differentiate. Narcissism is a spectrum and it's a broad range. And to have a few narcissistic traits is actually healthy. And it's called healthy narcissism. That's a good thing. To be a little bit, whatever it is of those 9, I'm going to tell you the criteria points, is all healthy and normal. But to be exaggeratedly so is not. And so at the end of the spectrum, there's a narcissistic personality disorder, and that is defined as having 5 or more of the criteria points that define narcissism. And if you want, I can read them to you, or I'll just give you a couple, and then the rest you have to read in my book. So basically, like the first one is having a grandiose sense of self. A classic one that everybody knows is the fact that they do not have empathy. So lack of empathy is a huge one. Being extremely arrogant and envious and having sort of this, it comes from unworthiness, but having this idea that they are perfect, deserve perfect love, the perfect relationship, the perfect life. And if anything is not like that and is not perfect, it's put down and looked down upon, right? So they're better than everyone else. They're special. They're superior. They need to be treated like superior. So those are some things. And they, due to that, they require this excessive admiration that they will get from you and they will force it from you, that supply to their ego. Those are some of the things. I don't know if I've named all 9 now, but if you have 5 out of those 9, you can be diagnosed. So, but to be a little bit envious, like, oh my gosh, she has all the things that I want. I wish I had them. That is not narcissistic. Or to want to be admired. That is a human, normal character trait. We all want to be admired to a degree, but we do not want to be worshipped. That's weird. That just feels uncomfortable. That's that difference, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. And so someone says, well, they seem so nice at the beginning. Like, how do you spot them? Because I just seem to attract them. Like clients will say, I just seem to attract them. How do you know if you're in a relationship with a narcissist?
So those classic, I call them 24 toxic traits in my book. And there's the classic traits that each narcissist, as I say, that they are copy paste because they really are in a lot of their patterns and things that they show and display. There'll be 24 toxic traits that you can see, okay, this is a narcissist by doing X, Y, Z. Some classic ones that we all know and we've heard the terms being thrown out there is gaslighting, which is pretending that something that happened didn't happen and just twisting reality to the point where you think you're crazy and you're doubting your own perception. There's things like stonewalling, which is for whatever random reason, and you might know and you might not know, might be from an explicit rule or an implicit rule that they just came up with 10 minutes ago. They'll just stop talking to you and they will just ignore you, stop texting, stop replying. And if you're married, they won't just ignore you for weeks on end or days on end, whatever. So that's stonewalling. There's the classic thing called triangulation, which is where they use other people and we call them flying monkeys. Actually, I really don't know where that term came from, but I know you know it, right?
I've never heard this with triangulation. They call them flying monkeys.
We have to find out why they're called flying monkeys. But basically, those are people that they use to weaken your perception again. So for example, it'll be an Easter brunch with your mom and then you'll drive home and he'll be like, oh, honey, your mom mentioned that you gained so much weight, but I don't even know why she said that. I don't think you look that big in that dress. Boom. So they plant this seed that like your mom thinks you're fat, right? And then you're thinking about that. This is a very girly example, but just an example. Or, hey, your best buddy Mike said that he finds it really odd that you do da 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 da. And then so you start thinking, huh, why would Mike say that? Why would my mom say that? You start getting hurt. You start holding grudges. And what eventually happens is you withdraw from those people. You stop sharing your pain. You stop sharing honest, so you get more and more isolated because the only person, and I'm going to quote unquote, whoever's not listening, I have my quotation marks up. I mean, whoever's just listening doesn't see us right now. The only person you can actually trust is your narcissist because everyone else is talking crap about you and devaluing you and you can't trust them anymore. And So this is a huge, very, very successful tactic to get you to feel lonely, feel like you have no allies, feel like you can't share your things, which then later really plays into their, how do I say this, plan because you stop sharing your problems with these loved ones and these really close friends.
Yeah, exactly. I know why they say flying monkeys. Have you seen the
Tell
movie
me.
Wizard of Oz? You ever
Uh-huh.
seen that movie Wizard of Oz? There's like the flying monkeys that help take the witch down.
There you
So
go.
they
The answer.
utilize the monkeys.
Exactly.
And there's a book
Perfect.
called something about the wizard about narcissism. I can't remember the title now. But anyways,
Okay.
I think that's where that comes from. But that makes
Got
sense
it.
that they're telling you this is such a huge tactic.
Huge. And it's so effective because all of us, right? Like, I mean, there's not one single person in the whole world who has like, I mean, there might be, but I don't know anyone who has like never said a bad word about anyone they know, right? So everyone could say something a little bit devaluing, a little bit mean, a little bit the ordinary, and then you just stop trusting people and yourself and your perception and your gut because you're like, that's weird. Sarah would never say things like that, but I guess he would never make that up. But he's making it up.
Exactly.
Or twisting things. Yeah.
Those
Lying.
are good examples because it gives practicality to this is how it will actually look. So you can spot.
Yes. Oh, and going back to in the beginning, they're charming. That is also a tactic. It's called love bombing. Is where in the beginning, they have to be incredibly charming, mostly good looking, amazing in bed, fantastic lovers, like sweet, learning for you to be so hooked onto the high that you think is like Disney World, fantastic, fabulous love. That's the first thing to get you in there. And then you tell everyone how amazing they are. And then you're stuck in that. And then that gets worse, worse, worse. And then you're like, why is it not as great as it was in the beginning? So that's sort of the beginning of the end. Once you feel that feeling, that's when you can start. That's a very dark red flag.
So some people are like, well, why did they develop narcissism? Is it their childhood? Is it the trauma they've gone through? They want to know, like, how did this person develop narcissism?
So in my book, I explain that there's two ways that narcissism can come about. One is if a child is too fond over, which is something we actually wouldn't think of. If somebody is always telling you, like a kid, how incredible and how perfect and how amazing you are. Kids are very smart and the kid grows up and comes to realize, hold on a second, I actually really suck at baseball, but dad is always telling me how perfect and amazing I am at this. And I'm actually really good at this other thing. And he's telling me the exact same thing in this other thing. So he starts to understand, it's called cognitive dissonance, that what he's hearing is not really what he's feeling, it doesn't come together. Like it's not the same thing. So he starts to understand, like, I'm being lied to essentially, which then in a child's sort of heart and value system equates to I'm not worthy because they're lying to me about how great I am, right? So that's one thing which people usually couldn't think of. And the very obvious one is where child is the opposite. A child is so neglected through whatever reason, whether the parents are narcissistic themselves, which is a classic, or the parents are drug addicts, or they're just rich and abandon them. Like whatever situation you have there, one or two parents, caregivers are not there for you and are neglectful. You also obviously, in your value system, you're like, I'm not worthy. My parents don't love me. They don't treat me like they should. So both of those equate to narcissistic, not like one-on-one, but are going to get you to stem like narcissistic personality disorder out of those because the person actually lacks confidence and worthiness and therefore has to sort of supply it from the outside and has to lie to themselves and think they are so amazing and so incredible and they have to have that void filled like under any circumstance. And that's the problem. That's why they exploit people.
Is shame, would you say shame's at the root? Like they just underneath it? Or is that hard for them? They don't feel it because they...
No empathy, no, yeah.
Yeah.
Like a sociopath or like a psychopath. But I think it's just at the core being so worthless, feeling so worthless that you have to stuff that hole somehow, no matter what the price is. And that comes to the price of everyone around them.
Yeah. Okay. So what attracts us to these? The love bombing, that they come on real compliments.
Because they feel so worthless, they are usually incredibly good at covering that up. So that is their whole life mission, is to cover that up, right? So they are, like, most of the time extremely good looking, very good in bed because they will mirror your desires, your wants and whatever. They're very good at reading people because they learned that in their childhood. I need to know how to read people to get what I need from them. So they will, like, mirror everything you want in bed, which is, everybody falls for that because that's a connector.
Especially for women, because they like
100%.
that puts those invisible cords.
Yeah, your body makes a promise when you sleep with someone, whether you want to or not. That's like that whole thing. And they're usually very smart, eloquent, charismatic, funny, can entertain a table. They are the stars from the show. And so everyone is drawn to them like moths to light. It's just like, wow, this incredible person. The thing is, they can do that, but they can't hold it. So when people are like, how do I know? Just wait and see if consistency is there. If consistency stops, it's going to stop very soon, actually, probably within weeks or months. And they will show their true face because they can't hold and contain that show, because essentially it is a show to lure you in.
Why do people keep going back to them? Because you feel like you've lost yourself, you think you're unlovable, but you have this attachment to this person because it feels so good when it's good.
You answered your own question.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So yes, it feels so good when it's good because it was in the beginning so perfect. It was everything you've been waiting for your whole life. And that's whether when you're 20, it's not as bad as when you're 40, 50, 60, because you've lived longer and you've been waiting for that for longer. And then you finally find it. You finally find your person, your home, your everything, your perfect soulmate, quote unquote, again. And then boom, they take it away. And that, to a normal, healthy mind, doesn't make any sense, because if it's so perfect, why would you not want to do everything you can to keep that perfection going, right? So you're at the point where you're willing to do everything you can to keep it going. But the narcissist who lacks empathy and care and anything and just thinks about himself or herself doesn't. So they start devaluing you. They start taking that perfection. I always say, like, paradise starts crumbling down. And then you want to hold it at any cost. So that's part of that. Because that high in the beginning was so incredible, you want to get back to that place. And what happens there is, like, it goes down, down, down. And then they give you what we call breadcrumbs, a little bit of nice, right? They're okay again. And you're like, oh my God, he's going to be amazing again. And then you're like holding on to those breadcrumbs as if it was like, but it's like bottom line, minimum effort, right? And then they're so horrible to you that, again, like, it drops you down. And then when they're a little bit okay, nice again, you're like, oh my God. So you're like a junkie to this up and down thing, and it's called trauma bonding. And it's just this neurochemical addiction to inconsistency in behavior. That's basically what keeps you going for it. And I always say to my clients, I say, especially when you've broken up, because that's one of the hardest parts, that aftermath, people go back on an average of 7 times. But what that is like that void that you then feel is so horrible, so empty. You want that drama back in your brain, that like dopamine rush, that spike, and then the withdrawal, you can't take it. So what I always tell them is, when you think about it, going back to the source of your pain cannot be the answer. But that's not what it feels like, because when you're gone, or when they're gone, and then you go back, it is amazing again for 3 hours, 3 days, or 3 weeks. No doubt, 100%. But that drop after that, and I promise you that's coming, like, that's a guaranteed drop, is going to be worse, because again, you've disappointed yourself believing them. And that adds to that whole...
Well, you're starting over again.
Yeah. And then you also blame yourself, which is part of that. At the end of the day, most survivors or victims, however you want to call them, have complex post-traumatic stress disorder, which is different than regular PTSD, in the sense that you feel you're part of the issue because you kept going back. Because people be like, well, why did you go back? I mean, why would you stay with someone who treats you like that? I mean, you're dumb. You know, like, people who have never been in that situation cannot relate, cannot understand. They cannot comprehend the amount of power that addiction has.
Yes, for sure.
And it's like a heroin junkie. They keep going back to their heroin. They know it's going to kill them, but they can't help themselves.
So how do you get out? So someone says, how do I get out? Because we have the getting out, and then we have the breakup, the healing from the breakup.
Yeah. So how you get out is you have to do logic over heart. You have to just cut it off. Boom. And when you do that, there's rules you need to follow. And that's all in my book. Like, there's several rules you really need to follow. The most important being 0 contact rule. But the point of, like, deciding that is not even the hardest. The hardest part is sticking with it, because they are so good at getting you back and luring you back in and hoovering. So the hardest part is resisting the urge to try again, which, like I said, most people can't, and that's okay. And what I'm saying now is a little bit contrary to what I tell my clients, because they have to be ready to leave. If you're not ready, there's no point, because you're just going to drive yourself mad and feel like, oh my God, I should have done this, I should have done that. So sometimes I do tell them, try everything you've got so that you can tell yourself I tried everything, but hurry with the trying because it's useless, right? So like that's kind of like the bottom, the sad truth is it's not going to work. I promise you it's not going to work. It never works with a narcissist. You can't win. It's not going to happen. So you better pour your heart out quickly and then run and then stay away. But there comes a point where your head is like, I'm done. It just goes click and then you're really done. And then you have the power to stay away. So it's kind of like finding that sweet spot between that click. If that happens to you early, great, wonderful, amazing, take it. But most people, it doesn't happen fast enough. So they have to put logic over their heart and just understand that their heart has a jet lag that's going to take a couple of weeks, months to understand that the logic was right. Yeah?
Yeah. Because they replay everything. Why did they do this? And maybe if I didn't say that or I didn't do that. It's a long process of grief. And it almost feels like torture inside of them. Describe that.
Yeah, that's actually a very good point. I think the biggest difference between, every breakup, let's assume healthy breakup, you still have those what if, thoughts, right? The difference is you might be able to, I don't know, a month after you break up, sit down, have an honest conversation, talk to each other about it, feel better, understand, validate each other's feelings, and then go off and, maybe 6 months down the line, you're friends. You can do that with a healthy person. The difference with the unhealthy and toxic and narcissistic breakup is they are masters of keeping you absolutely confused, walking on eggshells in a relationship. And then that gets you to the point where you are doubting your own perception so much and yourself so much, you lose trust in yourself, your self-efficacy goes. You're just basically a broken little human or a broken little child, just wants to curl up on the floor, feels so confused, feels like you're the crazy person because you're overreacting to things now and all these things happening. Because you're tormented slowly, but surely, every day you're tormented psychologically. God forbid, sometimes physically, sometimes sexually, but some people. And at that point, you're so confused that sometimes you believe them. After hearing for 10 years over and over that no one else will love you because you're useless, you internalize that. And then you start feeling like that. And you start thinking that that's true. And all of that confusion that they love to keep you in because that keeps their power over you. And that keeps them strong and you just weak, that sticks with you. And that takes forever to go away. It takes such a long time for that trust to come back to yourself, for you to trust your own instincts, for you to trust yourself and then others again, date again, all these things. And that's why it's so mean and horrible. And like you said, torture inside.
And a lot of people say, I'm never going to date again because how do I know I'm not going to pick somebody again?
Yeah.
So what kind of work does that look like for someone not to continue to break the golden pattern, to not pick a narcissist or an unhealthy person again?
Yeah, very good question. At first, I believe that part of that process, and that's why I wrote my toxic breakup journal, which gives you 35 days. So each day a reflection.
You do it once a day. You do it once a day. Is that
once a day?
Okay.
That's why I wrote this, because I think part of that healing and a very, very important part that most people want to skip because it's painful is the reflection on your own part of the toxicity. Yeah. What was your contribution? What is the thing that I'm lacking that keeps attracting me to that kind of person? For example, oh my God, I fall for only a man who will text me 25,000 times a day and who will show me that he's so interested in me. That's a classic, right? All of us are guilty. I'm guilty. We're all guilty.
They say good morning. They text me good morning. They text me good night every day.
They're constantly there. They always write me, it's amazing. And that in the beginning. And that, if you look deeper, it's a lack of assurance that you have yourself. You're not sure of yourself that you're worthy to be loved, for example. Yeah, let's just take that as a simple example. And first, that you need to look at that part. And then you need to heal that part. And no one out there can heal that part. You can, with, obviously I'm biased, help of therapists, help of Mrs. Boys, help of Alina Kastner, whoever will help you understand that part needs healing, needs love. We call it inner child. I don't know if you guys do that.
Oh, yes. I talk about it all the time.
There you go. So we do inner child work and that little girl or little boy needs to heal and that needs to be heard and that needs to be validated. And that's a lot of work, not fun work, but we need to invest in ourselves, those broken little pieces, because everyone has a story and everyone has a piece. So that's why I'm more likely to fall for that person. So once I heal this part, next time I'm in the dating scene, someone is texting me 25,000 times a day, maybe I'll be cute for a day or two, and then I'll start feeling slightly uncomfortable because it's just too much. Like, it's not necessary. It's not healthy. It's not a normal way of going about it. And I always hear people like, even on my Instagram, people are like, oh, but actually that's how I met my wife. And it was like, boom, on fire since the beginning. And 40 years into it, we're still like that. And of course, there is exceptions. I'm not going to lie. And everyone wants to be that exception. And maybe 1 in 8 billion people have that kind of relationship. And I'm so jealous of that. That's wonderful, right? But most of the time, it's not. Most of the time, it's deceit. So if you think not so sure in the beginning, like that gut feeling is that it's a lot and it's so much and they're so perfect and so da-da-da and always agree with me and all that thing, just check, just observe and double check. Don't give them everything you have in the first 6 weeks. Hold off. If it's the right person, it's still going to feel like that 6 months, 1 year down the line. Then you can do that. Then you can start giving in. But just be a little bit observant and just be a little bit protecting your heart, your space, da-da-da, and see if this person is consistent. Because most narcissists can't do past 6 months. So all you need is 6 months of observing. You should be good. There will be guaranteed red flags popping up in 6 months. So like, do your own work, self-reflect. That's a huge part. That you're a whole piece farther, yeah? And it doesn't mean that you can never feel attracted to them again. You can feel attracted, but you don't have to pull through with it. You can be different. I mean, there's that choice. And in the beginning, it's easier to say no than 6 months down the line.
Let's do a sample of questions from your journal. And I will tell you, as a therapist, there's not a lot of good breakup journals out there because it takes a good questions. It takes a professional, really, and someone that's gone through this to write these questions. So 35 days, and that's essential. I'm going to tell you, it's essential after a breakup in any relationship. I don't care if it's narcissism or not, to do self-reflection and to have a guide is helpful. So let's do a sampling of questions for those that are going through a breakup or trying to heal from one.
So you pick the day and I'll read it.
Let's do day 3, early in the process.
Early, yes. So what will you not miss about the toxic relationship? Circle all that apply on the left and write your own here. And then I have a list, and I'm going to read them because this is important. All the nights I couldn't sleep, being abused, being belittled, being betrayed, being cheated on, being controlled, being criticized, being disrespected, being gaslit, being ignored, being lied to, being made fun of, being manipulated, being overheard, being overwhelmed, feeling crazy, feeling insecure, lacking support. My ex's semi-good looks, girls, not being a priority, not breathing properly, the amount of drugs or alcohol that person was taking, the bad sex, the lack of intimacy, the lack of romance, the lack of sex.
Okay, that's just to name a few. To name a few. I also think like this hot-cold dynamic where they're like so into you and then they're real cold because you're trying to get them back to being like, you're trying to get back into being hot, like that dynamic. And you're like losing it.
Desperate.
Desperate. That is the word. Desperate.
Pathetic is the word they're going to use. You're so pathetic. What's wrong with you?
You're too much.
And the problem is the more they keep you away, the more they push you away, the more they belittle you, the more they make you feel like that, the more desperate you are.
Yeah. Okay, let's do day 14. Let's say someone's 2 weeks out. They're 2 weeks out. They're trying to heal.
It's been 2 weeks. Congratulations for making it this far. What are you trying to avoid thinking about today?
That's huge because that's what they're trying to busy themselves. They're trying to do something to get their mind off of it. And it's really hard. This is a death, but it's deeper. It's different, but there's so much grief, right?
I love what you just said.
Because they're still alive.
100%. Say this again, please, for everyone who didn't hear it the first time.
Like it's like a death, but they're still alive. It's different, but they're still here. And so you're trying to grieve it. But yet, you could see them out at the supermarket. You could run into them at the restaurant you guys used to go to. You still could see them. And the thought of seeing them, because a lot of times that'll reset the clock. If they see them or have a point of contact, it's like we're kind of like went back to day 1. Now you got to start the journal again. It's kind of what it's like. Would you say that for a lot of people?
It's exactly like that. And I literally tell my clients, if you have any contact, and here's the thing. Contact, like you said, is the classic contact, like seeing them, but there's a lot more to that. So stalking them on Facebook, stalking them on Instagram, having contact through their best friend that used to be so nice to me, I want to tell them, no. Like everybody who's connected to this person is a contact point. You cannot have contact. And I call it like, I visualize the metaphor I use is like you're in contaminated waters. you need to take the contamination out. Even one drop of poison, it's contaminated. So it needs to be out and cleared. And that takes time to clear your waters from all that contamination. Takes weeks, months sometimes. And then you can sort of restart trying to figure out your world. But as soon as you have any contact with this person again, and this is, I think, the hardest thing in the world in the beginning, because you're like dying to have information from them, dying to hear from them. And even if you're like, don't write me, I hope he doesn't write me, I hope he does. 3 weeks down the line, trust me, you're like, why is he not writing me? So it's like, it
He
switches
doesn't want
in your
me.
mind.
Why doesn't he want me? He's probably moved on. Look, he could like this girl on Instagram.
Okay, exactly. And then it's just horrific. Or like your friends tell you, oh, we saw him with so-and-so, or we saw her with so-and-so, and she looked so happy. She looked beautiful. Oh my gosh, that's going to eat at you for like weeks, things like that. So all of that poison, contamination, away, like very important. Yeah.
Yeah, which is going to take everything you have. That's why a support with the coach or a therapist like really is imperative to do this inner child work.
And I always say, because there is one exception, is when you co-parent with a narcissist, you obviously have to have contact. And that is one of the hardest things. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, it's so difficult, because then you have to put up boundaries, which of course are useless with narcissists. So like, there's this really difficult part when you co-parent with a narcissistic person. You really, really need to center yourself, follow your rules, go to therapy, do the things that it's very hard, because it requires so much discipline. And also in front of the children, like to protect the kids, all that. It's a lot.
Because you're going to do it for 18 plus years. They go to college or they get married, and you're going to have to run into, there's a whole co-parenting.
That's a whole nother podcast.
That's a whole nother podcast.
Cover that if
exactly. I'm like, that's a whole
But if people are interested, we can talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah. It really is a whole nother world. So when you say they lack empathy, okay, let's talk about that. I worked with a couple, this is a while ago, and he literally said, I have no empathy. And I was like, wah, 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 literally out loud. And she
What
did
did you
not
say?
see it. I said, do you have empathy? No, I said, do you lack empathy? That's what was my question. I said, do you lack empathy? And he goes, yeah, I don't really have empathy. He confessed. And I was like, okay. And they were deciding whether to stay or go. It was like a light bulb went off for her, because she didn't know that. Like, she knew, but she didn't know, because he can present like he does.
It, but yeah. Mm-hmm.
So how do you know if someone has empathy or not? She literally didn't really know. And I know this is tough.
Yeah, two things. It's not my idea. I'm stealing it, but I'm going to cite Jason McKenzie, who wrote Psychopath Free, which used to be my Bible before I wrote my own book. He wrote that you have to take your constant, which is a person that your whole life has always been there and supported you, right? So whether that's your mother, your sister, your best friend, whoever, somebody who is always on your team, somebody who always makes you feel good, but who is honest with you, like no bullshit, but like he's honest or she's honest with you and is just on your team. And then compare your partner to this constant. Would your constant ever make you feel like that? No, they would never. They're going to be like, Kristen, you're doing stupid things. Why are you doing that? They'll tell you straight up, and they might hurt your feelings, but they will tell you with love, and their whole intent will be loving, right? And empathetic, whilst that partner who lacks empathy obviously won't be. So if you compare that person with your constant, that's the first factor. If your answer is hell no, you know that that's your answer. There you go. That's one thing. And then the other thing is, you will feel it. You'll be like, why are they so mean? Or why would you do that? Or why would he lie about this? Or why would they hijack my birthday, my Christmas, whatever it is? And why are they always so freaking nice? Everybody around except me. Because that's another thing they do, right? They're only horrible to you, to the outside world, to his mates, to his whatever. They're incredible. Everybody will think you're crazy.
Because he's so great.
That's part of the game, right?
Yeah.
So compare that. Like, if that doesn't feel right, trust yourself, girls and boys. Trust yourself. Trust your instincts, one. And two, compare it to your constant. Those are the two tests that I would do.
That's good. I like that, because you're embodying the person that does have empathy, and you're going, okay, how does that line up? How does that feel? Would that person say that in that way?
They ever do it like that? Yeah.
Because it can be guised. They can hide it and make you feel like, I'm listening to you all the time about how upset you are.
Exactly. Or like, they will gaslight you to death by going, no, but just because I tell you whatever, like, you're not the brightest bulb, whatever. Just because, honey, I mean it with love. You're so sensitive. They'll turn it around and you'll feel like, well, maybe I'm just too insecure. But anything and everything they do will just make you feel more insecure, more confused, smaller.
Small.
less. And a person that loves you, let's face it, would never intentionally make you feel like that.
Yes. And I think the other thing I've heard is this is, I think, for younger folks like, well, my friends' wives or my friends'
Oh,
girlfriends,
yeah.
they're
That's
having
it.
sex so many times a week, or they don't nag their husbands if they go out, or
And
they're
that is a tactic too. It's similar to triangulation, but it's basically using others to belittle. And by saying, for example, what you said, like this can be the way you said it. So it's like my friends' wives don't nag like you do. They can do that, but they can also do it even more tricky by going, "Oh, I'm so glad you're not jealous like my ex. She was so bipolar." And then you're like, "Okay, so I'm so glad he thinks I'm not jealous. Wait a minute. If I show jealousy, he'll think I'm like his ex." So that's another really smart way by pretend compliments. Like there's a name for it that I'm not thinking of right now, but
yes.
like pretentious compliment that they pretend to be a compliment, but actually they're devaluation. They're a finger point going, be careful that you don't turn out like that. Don't you dare be jealous if I meet my ex-girlfriend 3 times a week, because then you're like her.
Yeah,
It's
then you're
things like
crazy
that.
like her, and that's
Then
the
you're crazy.
manipulative and controlling parts
Yes.
that they subtly do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you don't wanna be like that wife who or my ex who was just
Mm-hmm.
cuckoo.
And that seems nicer than the way you said it, right? The
It
whole, at
does.
least they are not like to, yeah. So,
It
but
does.
it's the same thing. It's the same manipulation.
These are good examples because I think
Yeah.
the hardest part for folks is, 1, getting out and staying out, and then not repeating the pattern. Like, those are what I see really keep someone, and it can go on,
Yes.
like you said, for a long time to heal from this.
Yes. And also, most people, and this is normal human, most people are more scared of unknown than a known bad. So, like, I know my situation is horrible, but I know it. I'm familiar with it. I can deal with it. I can handle it. Whilst I don't know what the unknown is going to bring. So, the future is a question mark, right? Like, you have no idea. But I always tell my clients, like, I understand that, but why is our core thought that the future is going to be worse? Why does that come up? Why is it so pessimistic? The chances of the future being better than this is huge, right? It's big, because what are the chances it's going to be just as horrific as a narcissistic relationship that's abusive? That's what you have to keep in mind. Most people, the known familiar pain is easier to handle than the unknown question
Yes.
mark.
The
That's why
uncertainty,
people don't want to leave.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about 2 things. 1,
Yeah.
fear and the role
Mhm.
fear plays while you're in the relationship and then getting out of it, and the fear of being alone. I feel like or never having someone or never being loved again, or I feel like those are powerful. Talk about that.
I mean, let's start with the second one, fear of being alone. When you are with a narcissist, you are alone. There's no one on your team. So you are alone, you just are not alone. And I understand like society pressures, papa p, but at the end of the day, I mean, I don't know, being alone and okay with yourself is a beautiful place to be, okay? It's not a bad place. So, but being alone, and like if you prefer to have a fake thing that you're upholding for, the outside, or yourself, because you'd rather be with a abusive person than alone, you need to really ask yourself, why is that? Like, why do I not have enough self-worth to be like, no, I'd rather be alone and maybe not happy, but okay and not abused, right? Than be with someone and be abused. That's one. And two, the fear is so powerful because most of us naturally have that anyways. Like there's some elements of fear of being alone, especially if you're a woman, especially if you're a little bit older. Like you don't want to be that pathetic person alone, like whatever, keep a relationship or whatever going. But also they instill that. And that's their whole job, like that whole relationship. That's what they're going to do. They're instilling fear. You're useless. You're pathetic. No one loves you. I'm the only one that can keep up with you because you're such a pain. Like I'm the only one patient enough to deal with your crap. You're ugly, you're fat, you're this, you're dumb, you're da 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 da, and you're lucky to have me. And so this whole like thing is instilled in you that you're actually lucky to have them and how much they love you. And you should be grateful and you're ungrateful. And all this is so powerful when you hear
Mhm.
it for such a long time that you start believing it again, internalize that voice, and then you're even more scared and have even more fear because you start to believe of what they say is true.
Yeah, and that's where the torture in your head comes in. That's really it. Okay, what other books have been transformational in your life? They can be anything. You named one.
I I am reading, this has nothing to do with the topic, but I am reading this little cutie. It's called A Simpler Life.
Ooh.
And it's so cute. It's like this book that just in every aspect of your life simplifies. And I love it. It's beautiful. It's right where I am right now. So I love that one. like I said, Psychopath Free, I thought was a great book. Very on the topic, totally on the topic of my book.
I know. I always have
And
to look at my shelf because I have so
yeah,
many books.
and An Untethered Soul.
I love that one. Michael
Such a good
Singer.
Michael Singer. And actually now I read a German book because for me, it's how do you say this? Like, my son is 10 months old, so I'm reading this German book on kindergartens, and I'm not putting him in kindergarten until he's 3. And I'm a huge fan of this US-based psychologist who says that you shouldn't put your kids in kindergarten until they're 3 years old, which is something in the US very difficult, right? Because there's no maternity leave or very short maternity leave and stuff. I mean, this is a German word, but it's called Die Krippenlüge, which is basically the kindergarten lie. And it's such a good book also. Like, wow.
That sounds good. Who
And
was Erica Cromer?
Erica
She was on my
Kommissar, yeah.
podcast.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So Erica, she
She's
wrote
got
this
a new
book
book coming out too.
Yeah, it's true. She wrote this book called Being There. I read that book and I thought it was really good too. And actually, we're actually thinking of doing something together too, which would be nice. Yeah.
So excited for you. Okay.
Yeah. Her new book is called what? I forgot.
Remember the name. It looks really good.
I know what it's called. How to Get a Divorce or something like that. The Guide to Divorce. Parents' Guide to Divorce.
Okay. Because that's.
But I haven't read it. I haven't read it. Yeah.
You haven't either. Okay. So anything we did not cover that you felt was important before we close out?
No, honestly, I think you did a fabulous job. I think like the only thing we might have missed is like, okay, now how do you get over it? Or how do you stay out of it? No, I think we've covered it. You look at yourself, you go to therapy, you've covered it. We're good.
The inner child work. I mean, that you can't get around it. You got to do that. And then use your journal.
And people don't want to. They don't want to do it, right? It's hard
They're
work.
like, why do we have to go to the past? I'm like, because it's replaying out in the present. I know, but you'll be free on the other side of it. And use your journal. I think that is key, is you've got to do self-reflection and build your awareness and heal that inner child work. So thank you so much for the work you're doing in the world. I'm so grateful for you. I loved our conversation.
I loved it too. It was fabulous. Can you send me everything and collaborate on the thing? Yeah,
we will send you everything. And then we're linking everything in the show notes. So thank you for joining me today.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening to the Close the Chapter podcast. My hope is that you took home some actionable steps along with motivation, inspiration, and hope for making sustainable change in your life. If you enjoyed this episode, click the subscribe button to be sure to get the updated episodes every week, and share with a friend or a family member. For more information about how to get connected, visit Kristen, Kristen, D, Boyce, BOICE.com. Thanks and have a great day.